What are we going to talk about today?
Well, no matter who is president, Ronnie Coleman is still king.
Who's Ronnie Coleman?
This awesome power lifter and bodybuilder from the 90s.
Oh, okay. I probably didn't know that because I don't participate in butt darts.
Butt darts is my favorite though. So now I was scrolling through Instagram the other day and I saw that and I was like, this is great.
Well, I didn't really have anything specific to talk about, which is kind of the point of this new show. And since this is going to be the first episode that we're actually official episode that we're going to release, I guess we should introduce ourselves first. You want to go first?
Yes. Hi, my name is Lucas Garza. I am 37 years old, a native of Houston, Texas. My social security, I'm just kidding. No. Yeah. So, I'm Lucas, pretty much a regular dude, family guy, salesman by trade. I'm just kind of trying to navigate this crazy ass life and be a good person.
My name is Tommy. I am not going to get, I guess, too personal right now. Well, there's plenty of time for that. But I'm in my 40s. I'm 7 years older than Lucas. Lucas and I have been really good friends for a really long time. And we originally, just through hanging out, decided that one day it would be amazing if we could start a podcast. So we started brainstorming. And I have to apologize about my voice today. I've been sick for a few days, but anyway, we were brainstorming in his backyard one day, and we decided to start what would be a true crime podcast. But we didn't want it to just be true crime, so we wanted to cover horrors from all different, forms of life. I don't know, life experiences.
Yeah, scary stories, murder stories,
animals attacking their owners, QAnon, which ultimately got us banned from YouTube from life, all that kind of stuff.
Who's laughing now, YouTube?
And you can find that podcast by searching for Fun Time Horror Show, all separate words, Fun Time Horror Show. We have a new feed going on over there. It's got 45 episodes. Oh my God. Sorry about that, guys. It appears that I broke my own rule of recording, which is turn your damn ringers off. But we're back, and I'm turning off my ringers. So, we were talking about Fun Time Horror Show. So, Fun Time Horror Show was our first, venture into podcasting, and it was really shitty at first. The content was amazing. The quality was horrible. And so over the years, the last, we've been doing this for 3 years at this point. We've slowly made financial investments into better equipment, better computers, better software, and hopefully you like what you're hearing today. But talk about our vision. Why are we doing open mic night versus Fun Time Horror Show right now?
The big motivation as we began to talk about this was the fact that both of us have kind of changed a little bit in terms of our mindset and just trying to be more spiritual people, more focusing on good things. And we realized that covering gore and cruelty all the time was kind of messing with that goal. And we also realized that we still have great conversational chemistry, and thought, well, what if we took some of the magic from Fun Time Horror Show, which was largely, everyone would say, that banter you guys have is great, and then throw these topics on top of it, be it really anything. We're kind of talking, we're it's called open mic because it's open to any topic, and we're trying to draw out the good themes, not good, but the critical themes from whatever topic, and then maybe even explore some of that quote unquote darkness. Or
well, and since this is a completely freestyle show, there's no scripts. We might work off bullet points on occasion, just notes, but for the most part, it's just going to be what's going on in our lives. I kind of said that maybe it would be almost like an audio diary, of our journey, once a week through our lives, because when we go back and listen to the old Fun Time Horror Show, and I listen to the banter and the things that we were going through at the time, I find it really, really interesting to hear how much we've grown just in a couple of years. You think once you're an adult, that's pretty much it. This is going to be the phase I'm in for the rest of my life, but it's not. You know, in Buddhism, they said the only thing that's guaranteed is that everything is going to change. Everything is in a constant state of change. And with that said, and again, I apologize about the voice. I apologize about sinus sounds that may be coming through the mic, but getting this first episode out was really important. I didn't want to take a sick day. So I think what I want to do, we originally said, well, let's do our first show after the election. That'll give us a topic to talk about. But I say, fuck the election. It is what it is. I feel like our guy won. Well, you're more, I think you said you would vote Libertarian.
I voted Green Party.
Okay. I voted for Trump. But let's not talk about that since I can hardly talk anyway. Why don't we let this be your show and let's talk about some of that growth and maybe where you were when we started Funtime Horror Show and what happened to you over like these last 2 to 3 years.
So the funny thing about Funtime Horror Show, one of my favorite things is, if you remember, you showed up with a guitar and we were going to like try and do a band. And we sat there and you were like, so what do you think? Because you're always like, all right, let's come up with a plan. So you're like, okay, so what kind of schedule can we do? Like, how many times a week are we going to meet? This and that. And I was like, well, I mean,
yeah, I'm very goal oriented,
yeah,
and plan driven.
It's good. It serves you well in your career. So I was like, well, realistically, dude, I got, 2 kids and 1 on the way. I really can't commit to a band. And you're like a natural born salesperson, right? Like, no is not in your vocabulary. Like, well, what if we did a podcast? Like, yeah, we just do a podcast instead. And I was like, okay. So anyway, Funtime Horror Show was kind of birthed out of an idea from an idea. And at the time that we kind of came together and started doing it, I was, 33, I think. My youngest son was still cooking. It was 2020. It was like late 2020. And in fact, when we aired our second episode, I wrote it from the hospital, the Weepy Voice episode.
Yep, I remember. We did it over the phone, and even though I'm a big like, oh, it's got to be like perfect quality and all this stuff, and I was essentially recording a telephone conversation because of the content and the fact that the guy used to call in his murders.
Right.
I thought it actually ended up working out.
It's still a top 5 for me. Top 5 episode on that podcast.
If something fascinates you, you can tell the story from a place of wonder, I guess you can say, a place of excitement. For that reason, I chose this story. It's one I came across a few years back, and it's always kind of freaked me out. It's given me the chills. Just the way this guy attacked his victims was very simple, but very barbaric. Let's jump into it. This is the story of the Weepy Voice Killer, starting with victim 1. Karen Poteet.
Anyway, I was in a really dark place, and I don't think I really realized it. I
did.
Yeah, everyone seems to know but me. That's how it always happens. I was drinking heavily. I mean, I have a lifelong struggle with alcoholism. I mean, I think I started drinking when I was like 16, maybe 17. And at the time that Funtime Horror Show had just started, I was, in fact, hell, our first episode where you talked about like crocodile and all those crazy drugs.
I did the horrors of drugs, and you did a
drunk driving.
Yeah, drunk driving story with the lady that
Went
was
to
a closet alcoholic and ended up mowing down some people, I believe.
Yeah,
Killed
like
a whole family.
7 people died. Yeah.
Really fucking horrible. And this is exactly what this show's about. This next drug I'm about to tell you about. Jankum.
I'm just going to go ahead and explain about this cool thing that I got into a few months ago called Jankum. So maybe I'll just explain first a little bit about what Jankum is. It's like a drug, I guess. Some people might say it's like a drug, but it's more than that. It's like a path to spiritual awakenings, but it's made from human feces when you and you ferment it in your jar, and then we'll go through that in a bit. I guess in a little bit we'll go through that process, and then then you basically just you huff on it, you just inhale that, and then you can get some really great spiritual awakenings.
It's a highly hallucinogenic drug, which results from huffing the fumes of your own fermented fecal matter.
Well, I
Users
was
claim it gives an
hungover on
incredible
my way
rush
to
and
record that first
overwhelming
episode.
taste
I
of shit.
had to pull over and vomit, and I vomited all over my clothes. Remember, you had to give me your son's
Yep, I gave you some clothes.
to change into, yeah. So, I was very much a high functioning alcoholic. I mean, I was drinking constantly. I was supposed to be taking medication, and I was actually just like, I was still taking the medication and also drinking like a fish. And the combination of alcohol, heavy alcohol use, drug use, and prescription medications had me in such a weird head place. I didn't really care about much, and I didn't realize I didn't care. And it was nothing for me to just wake up still drunk, have to pull over, vomit, and then keep going and doing whatever I was doing. I was used to that life. I think I would have just kept living that way, because I was just so used to it. But what happened, my wife and I were going through a bit of a renaissance, in our relationship. I mean, we've been together for a long time, and if you've been together with anyone any number of years, you know how it goes. There's the puppy love stage, then you get used to each other, and then you kind of just whatever, and then you kind of rekindle, and over nearly a 2-decade long relationship, you're gonna have that waxing and waning effect, And we were undergoing a period where she was in therapy, we were having lots of sex. Lots of really good sex. We were our first time together again. And all this openness was happening and feelings we hadn't felt for each other in years. And so one night, I think it was 2021. So this is right before my son had turned a year, my youngest son. He was born November of 2021 or 2020. And we're going into a full year later. This whole time I've been doing the podcast with you. I had a secret thing with some booger sugar going on, and then I was drinking heavily and all the shit I was doing. So one night when I was supposed to be sleeping and getting ready for my job the next day, instead it was 2 a.m. and I was up doing blow and taking shots of vodka. And my wife is she's in this I'm going through therapy mode. And so everything is open and honest, and I want to communicate. And, I don't know if you've known someone who's going through therapy actively, but it's when people start going to church, you know what I mean?
Right.
This, all they talk about is their therapy or their church, right? So it was kind of like that. So everything was about therapy. And so she apologized to me about some things that happened between us on her side, long time ago, whenever we were,
This isn't when you come clean, is it?
No.
Okay.
Thanks for the spoiler alert, Quentin Tarantino.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
So she apologized, and it was funny because if you have bad shit you've buried, you just it stays buried so long that you forget that it's there, right? And so she apologized to me about some things that happened, and I was it was so funny too, because I was all arrogant. I was yeah, that really affected me for a long time, but it does mean a lot. I really appreciate you saying that and whatever, and we hugged, and it was a big thing, and it was wow, we made so much progress. And that was great for 2 or 3 days. And then it occurred to me one day, driving home or something. I was not with her. I was somewhere else. And I'm sitting there in traffic, and I'm oh shit, you know what? The thing you did was worse. And she didn't even know about it. And I was what kind of asshole are you sitting there oh, it's okay. You really have messed with me, but it really hurt me, but it's okay. I forgive you. But you're a hypocrite, right? And man, that just fucked with me so bad. I mean, I just I couldn't get over it. And now where I'm at today, I realized that I was heavily, I was pretty much psychotic. I mean, I was on all kinds of drugs. I was drunk all the time. I was not taking my medicine properly. And what seemed like reality to me, it was I was a hypocrite. But the way I chose to handle everything after that moment was probably it's if you have some stitches and it's time to remove the stitches, and you're like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get this butcher knife and just slice the stitches right off, and you end up creating a bigger wound, and then there's like, it was worse than if you would have just done it a different way. That was what I did.
So obviously the listeners don't know exactly what it is that you're talking about, the thing that you did, and I don't know if you want to share it or not, but you shared it with me at the time. And I'm going through my own like spiritual enlightenment phase, right? And so I really want to, okay. So one of the things that I do now is I don't give any advice from the moment the question's asked of me. Like my kids call me, they're having problems with their work, with their, with their job, with their landlord, whatever. I gather all the information and I say, call me tomorrow and we'll discuss it. Because I think one of my biggest strengths is that I act quickly, but it's also one of my greatest weaknesses because sometimes when you act quickly, you don't get the time to get the full perspective about what's happening. And now I like to try, especially when there's multiple people involved, I really try to envision that specific situation from the eyes of every single person involved. Like I really try to become that person and then come up with the solution that I think is the best win for everyone involved. Right. So this was one of the first times, your situation was one of the first times I did that. And I'm like, oh, I don't really, because I knew what my gut told me. But I waited and then I told you, I was like, I don't think you should say anything. And you were like, okay. And then like 30 minutes later, you'd pop up over your desk. But man, it's really driving me crazy, man. I feel like we did this circle like 100 times. And then finally I was like, do whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, I don't give a shit anymore. Just let me work. So
I have that effect on people.
But essentially it was like, I don't remember the exact thing, but I know it was like some type of infidelity or something. But it was some type of infidelity that was like from a decade past when you were both still kids.
Yeah.
Right? Because y'all got married really young, like me and my first wife did. And I told you to make it right with God and repent and actively seek to learn from it. But for now, don't say shit, because I played every scenario out in my mind for you, like putting myself in your position with your wife and your kids and your situation. And every scenario that I ran through, which was probably dozens, every one of them ended up terribly bad.
Yeah. Oh, it was.
So anyway, so what happened when you didn't take my advice?
So a little window into what the situation Tommy's talking about. I literally was beside myself, wasn't sleeping very well at all. Like I was probably running on an hour or two of sleep a night, and it felt urgent to me, right? And so
and you're also eating shrooms the whole time while you're thinking about this, right?
Well, that's actually what I was about to get to.
Okay.
This was like a powder keg, as we say, and I had just put a fuse on it, and it was just sitting there waiting to explode. And what do? It's not enough to take antidepressants and antipsychotics with alcohol and cocaine. I'm like, no. Let's go all in. And I took some mushrooms, right? So I'm sitting there. This is a Sunday night, and I had already been drinking all day. And I decide, man, I really don't want to fucking go to work tomorrow. I hate work. I know. I'll just trip, and I won't care about work until I have to be at work. So I eat these mushrooms, and I'm sitting there, and my wife and my sister-in-law were there, and they asked me, like, for some reason, I'm making burger patties, and I'm sitting there, and I'm flipping them. You can't see it, but I'm doing a flipping motion. And that's when the psychedelics kick in. And you know that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, where the angel takes him and shows him like his life? Like, yeah. So that happened minus the angel, but like everything that I have done wrong was just like in my head. And then I kept thinking about like that infidelity, and it was like screaming in my head. Like I literally, like, it was like, you're this, you're that, you're a bad person, you're a liar, you're a hypocrite. And I was just like, oh, I can't deal with this. And so that led into that frenzied like week or two of me just like, Tommy, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know if I can do this. And you gave me the most sound advice anyone could have. In fact, months later, my AA sponsor went on to give me very similar advice.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, too late. Already did it. He's like, whoa, He's like, yeah, you should never. He's like, never ever do anything like that again without consulting with me or someone that's like that you trust, because that was a terrible idea. He's like, how'd that work? And I was like, it barely worked. He's like, wow, you're lucky.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. So the scenario ended up playing with you guys basically having 6 to 12 months of tension, maybe, in the house.
Yeah,
But eventually, it kind of like life kind of went on, and you guys are, I assuming, doing pretty good now.
yeah, we're better. We rebuilt our marriage.
Yeah, and so rarely is that the outcome. You know, because I think sometimes like everybody understands that infidelity is like basically the biggest sin, I guess, that you can commit in a relationship. And so my thing was, if there was even a fraction of your wife that was like, I don't think I want to be married anymore, dude, that was her pass. Like
that was it.
That was her pass. Like no matter how petty everything else is that she fucking hates about you, as soon as you bring that out,
That's it.
that's her get out of jail free card.
Yep.
She can leave and tell the story to anyone that'll listen, and nobody will fucking be on your side at all.
No,
and
honestly.
she can just break up your family and take your children and live the rest of her life completely guilt-free with probably more money and a much larger penis, if I had to guess.
Probably do an upgrade.
Upgrade, yeah.
Yeah, dude. It was. I would have been fucked. And it was funny because once the cat was out of the bag and a few days went by, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna be broke forever. But so what happened is it happened like this, and this is a good window into how not right I was in the head. I had been agonizing over it for 2 weeks, and you were kind of finally like, dude, I don't give a shit. So I realized I had to stop bugging you about it. So I remember I was sitting there at home one day.
I still cared. I just saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, well, you know me, I got my own shit to deal with. So, you know, I'm taking you to water, but you're not drinking. So I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, I get it.
I just have to sit back now and, you know, potentially watch my best friend's world fall apart in front of me. And that's what I didn't want to see.
Well, I kind of made my bed, really. I really made my bed. But so I was sitting at home one day. I had taken the day off to watch our two little ones, and I was sitting there, and I was like, I mean, I suck I suck at hiding things. Whenever something's wrong with me, it's all over my face. Like, even if I try not to look that way, I just look that way. So I was sitting there at the dinner table, or the dining room table. We were having lunch, and she was like, you know, you're never gonna feel better until you talk about it. And I was like, what the fuck? And she's like, yeah, the problems with she thought I was upset about my parents. And I was like, oh. Like, I thought she was sending me signs or whatever, right? So then she's like, she sends me, she's a big horoscope. She's a big astrology chick. So she sends me this, like, what my horoscope is for May. And it was like, or not for May, but for that period or whatever, that month. And it was like, a secret something will come across. Basically, like, you're going to say this and it's going to be crazy. And if you don't do it, worse things could happen. And I was like, oh no, everyone knows. And I literally, on the spot in the fucking kitchen, right there, because she showed me a horoscope, spilled the beans. And yeah, dude, what resulted was 18 months of just sheer uncertainty and hell, and a lot of heartache, a lot of crying, a lot of fighting. But the point of this story is, she looked at me and she was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, you can, like, stay here, but, like, right now we're just friends. Like, I don't know what we are.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, and if this is going to go anywhere, you have to be completely different. Like, you need to go to AA. You need to get clean, this, and that. So I went to AA very reluctantly. My last drink was Thanksgiving night 2021. And it was funny, too, because it wasn't even good. I was like, if I would have known this was going to be my last drink, I would have picked something better. It was like some shot of some cheap whiskey or whatever. But I reluctantly started AA just because I had to, because that's what was keeping me in my own house. And like many people that you'll talk to that have done AA, are like people that go to church, like that someone drags them to church. Like I was just sitting there in the back of the meeting, didn't care, didn't want to talk. I was there because I had to be, and so I could show her like, hey, I got another chip today. Like, leave me alone. And it was probably like that. It was probably like that the first month I was there, and man, eventually it just started to sink in. I hit a point where I was tired of being miserable. I was tired of feeling like a bad person. I was tired of like my life being controlled. Like literally step one, my life had become unmanageable.
Yeah.
So I decided to work the steps, and I got a sponsor, and I got to tell you, man, everybody should do the 12 steps, because as expensive as mental health care is in our country today, it's free. And I got to tell you, it was like therapy. It really was, because it forces you to dig deep into like what's making you tick. Like, what is the root of this problem? And, you know, one of my favorite exercises was step 4. I think it's step 4. They have you write out a list of everybody who's ever wronged you, no matter how small, how big. If you're holding on to it, you write their name and what they did. And I remember I went through that whole list, and I was like, yeah. And like, I thought he was going to tell me like, oh, all these people suck or something. And then we sit down to go over the list, and we went over the entire thing. It was like an hour and a half. He's like, okay. Every time I tell him what they did, okay. That's all my sponsor would say is, okay, what's the next one? And I was finally like, we got to the end of the list. He's like, all right, now here's your next assignment. Go through that list again and write out what role you played in every single one of those issues, no matter if you think you were wrong or not. And I was like, what the fuck? And dude, that was an eye opener, because what you figure out is most of your resentments are based on your idea of how things should be going for you, and not like, it's based off of misperceptions and self-deception. And man, that was an eye opener for me.
Now we're getting close. We're getting close to wrapping. So I know today that you're in a lot better place, but so I struggle with my own addiction as well. As you know, I've always had a problem with food, right? And maybe we can do a podcast on that next, because my issues with food are really deep seated, and probably I've traced them all the way back to like my fucked up childhood. But you and I both have recently fell off the wagon.
Yeah.
And neither one of us feel very good about it.
No, I'm pretty embarrassed about it, actually.
So how many days sober are you officially?
None. I keep relapsing.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of bad to admit on the microphone. But yeah, I keep trying, and for the exact reason that you're not supposed to, it's hard to keep that streak now.
Well, and I'm not even mad at you, dude. Like I said, I watched this with my dad for half my childhood, 2/3 of my childhood, and for about the last third of my childhood, after him and my mom split. You know, but the audience doesn't know that my mom ended up marrying my dad's AA sponsor. So my dad's AA sponsor ended up becoming my stepdad, and I think we lived in this house for like 4 or 5 years before I had my daughter and moved out. But it was kind of interesting living with an extremely violent, alcoholic, drug-using human being, and then going and spending the last part of my childhood living under the roof with someone that was a recovered alcoholic, that his job at the time was doing alcohol and drug dependency counseling classes for people that get convicted, in court. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's really weird, but alcohol was never my problem. Food was always my problem. I used football as my excuse to get off the wagon. And I said, as long as I eat, I'll just eat whatever I want to on Sundays, right? When I'm watching football, and I'll just be super strong Monday through Saturday. And then of course, the customer wants to go out to lunch. Where you want to go? Papacitos, Mexican food. Well, one more meal is not going to kill me, because I wasn't gaining any weight from eating whatever the fuck I wanted to on Sunday. but I also stopped losing. And I still have like another 16 pounds to hit my 100-pound goal. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm down 84 pounds. Thank you.
Man.
Thank you. I'm going to add some applause. And right there. Yeah,
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Maybe the sound effect of someone patting themselves on the back. But yeah, I mean, so that's what we do, right? It's like we look for excuses. We look for ways to like break our commitments to ourselves, and it's a mental disorder, man. It's a mental disorder. So I'm back doing what I'm supposed to do as of this week. I got on the scale Sunday and I realized I've actually put on like 4 or 5 pounds from my lowest point. And I think we're like in week 7 or 8 of the football season. So and basically in 2 months, I've put on 4 or 5 pounds, which you would say, oh, that's not a big deal. It's a big deal for me because I was so happy to be so close to my goal. And when you're really like super fat, like when you're over 300 pounds, like I was almost 320, you could pretty much like diet for a week and lose like 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Like in 1 week. After you lose like 80 pounds, you have to fight tooth and nail for like every fucking like ounce.
Yeah. It becomes hard work.
And you know, because you drop like 60 pounds, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's extremely, extremely hard. I used to lose like 1 to 2 pounds a day. Now, if I'm lucky, I might lose 1 to 2 pounds a month. Maybe 3. It's not even quite a pound a week at this point. But anyway, why don't we, on the air, why don't we make a commitment to each other that we're going to back each other up on this, make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, and check on each other regularly.
Let's do it.
And let's keep our audience posted. We'll be accountable to our audience on our progress, and but we'll be honest. We'll be honest, because that's what this is all about. It's like real people, real obstacles, real solutions,
Real life.
real life.
Oh, slogan. Done.
Is that?
We got to remember that was pretty good.
You know what I want to do at the end of the show? I want to do the quote from Friday. Remember when we were talking about like what is this podcast going to be about? And I said in Friday, excuse me, Craig's dad, when Craig pulls out the gun out of his drawer and his dad walks in, he's like, "What are you doing with that thing?" And he said, "It's for protection." And he said, "Boy, in my day, this is all you needed for protection." And he holds up his fist and he said, "This is all you needed." He's like, you fight, and sometimes you win some and you lose some, but you're still around to fight another day.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted the podcast to be about. So I think we accomplished it with this first episode.
First episode went deep. And honestly, you asking me that question and me having to be honest about it, you know, since this is open mic and the whole point is to be real, 2 people from my family have reached out to me and been like, "Look, I'm concerned about what you're doing." And so it's kind of the monkey on my back right now. So the fact that it came up a third time and like this literally been like the last 2 days, I feel like, man, I was a happier guy. I was proud of myself when I was almost 3 years sober. And
Man, I asked a question one time to a pastor. I said, why does like God let people have cancer? You know, why would he do that? And, you know, you say your prayers and stuff, and then God gives you cancer. And, you know, why can't God just heal you? Right? Why can't God just take the cancer away? Maybe I didn't say, why does he give you cancer? Maybe I meant to say, why can't God just hear your prayer and take the cancer away? And he says, well, how do you know that your prayer wasn't answered? I'm like, well, because, you know, like, let's say I have cancer, I still have cancer, right? Like I'm going to doctors and stuff like that. He said, well, who put the doctors in your life? You know, that was him answering your prayer to get rid of whatever your illness is. And maybe the fact that you're hearing this for the 3rd time this week, maybe that's God bringing the solution to you.
yeah.
To stop being a little bitch and do what the fuck you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I know. That's
That's it. Tough love.
that is. No, you're right. And I 100% took it that way. So you're right.
Well, you're like my little brother, man. I talk the exact same way to Chris. Yeah, I don't know. I look at you and all I see is my little brother, man.
Your brown little brother.
My brown little brother. Well, I guess you want to say anything else?
No, just that keep coming back. It works if you work it, you die if you don't. No, that's AA. keep tuning in. It's going to get better. We're going to keep talking about real life, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty of some things I think it might help other people out.
Yeah, and I haven't really talked to you about it yet, but on weeks because I know your life is way more hectic than mine is, I've got like some potential sit-ins that audience might find interesting. And again, that's only if your life gets in the way of. We're going to try to do this every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. That's the plan.
And release by the weekend at some point, like Friday night or something. Yeah. Friday. I also am in the midst of. I have 3 people in my life right now who are actively dying, and so I've been trying to. 2 of them are local. 1 of them is not. I have a mother-in-law that's suffering with what appears to be a severe bout with dementia at this point. We've been pretty active with them, trying to help out and show up. Stacy's uncle recently was hospitalized. He has no wife. He has no kids. He lives about an hour from here. And I've basically told him I would go over to his house like once or twice a week and help out. Matter of fact, I got to go cut his grass Saturday. And then I don't know if I told you, but my buddy up in Tennessee recently called me. Yeah, he got found out stage 4 prostate cancer. So I've opened my home up to him. We have some of the best medical treatments here for cancer in Houston, probably the best in the world. I sent him a bunch of YouTube videos and stuff like, hey, check out MD Anderson. I really think you need to get down here. Methodist. We got MD Anderson and Methodist. So I don't know.
That's all you can do is try and offer the help.
Yeah, it's taxing, man.
Oh, it is.
And I was recently talking to somebody who is older than me, actually the guy that's doing the body work on my Mustang. He asked me he said, man, you look a little down today. And I said, well, I've got all these people in my life, man, that are having like real problems, And I said, I know 3 people right now that are basically, I'm just watching die. And he said, how old are you? I said, I'm 44. And he said, well, I'm in my 60s, and you can't even fathom that, like, how much you're going to be faced with this from the time you're in your 40s until you get to my age. He's like, it kind of just becomes like a new way of life. And I never really thought about it before, but it is what it is. That's what the show's about. Just airing out that laundry and, trying to find what that light at the end of the tunnel is.
And live to fight another day.
Live to fight another day.
That's right.
Anyway, you guys have a blessed night. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week.
Have a good one, y'all.
Hey, before we go, I wanted to let you guys know that we do have a Yahoo Mail account set up. So if you want to shoot us some messages, maybe tell us a story that you would like for us to share, or, we can always talk about it and maybe get some input from Lucas and myself. But you can email us at openmicnightpodcast@yahoo.com. That's openmicnightpodcast@yahoo.com. See you guys next time.
Man. Your mother and I never would have moved in this neighborhood if we had known you need a gun to walk down the damn street.
No ideas around here.
Oh, no, son. That's not the way it is. You kids today are nothing but punks. Sissified. So quick to pick up a gun. You're scared to take an ass whipping. This what makes you a man. When I was growing up, this was all the protection we needed. You win some, you lose some. But you live. You live to fight another day.